Hello, I'm Tom Bailey, and in today's Speaker Stories episode, I'll be getting to know Harriet Turk, who is a speaker and consultant and has developed and implemented multi-million dollar programs for local, state, and national level education systems, whilst also building a speaking career for youth and adults seeking to find or improve their leadership skills. So, Harriet, hello, and a very warm welcome to today's episode.
Hello, and nice to be here. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much for being here. And just out of interest for everybody listening, whereabouts in the world are you right now?
I am in Memphis, Tennessee, United
Awesome.
States. So,
Thank you so much. And just to kind of move into the topic of speaking, I know that you're currently a speaker and have been speaking and have been working in the speaking and presenting industries. So I wanted to kind of begin by asking you a simple question. How important do you think public speaking is as a skill for people at all levels in their career?
it's you've got to have it. You have to know how to present and speak, no matter if it's just talking to your boss or if it's speaking to 10,000 people. I mean,
Yeah.
we all need to know how to speak well.
Awesome, thank you. And I guess in your career, how important would you say public speaking has been for you in your different careers and jobs you've had?
Well, it's interesting because I started off a probation officer, went to youth programs coordinator, and that's when I put on conferences.
Hmm.
And I never could find women speakers, or rarely found women
Yeah.
speakers. And so I feel like you have to know what you can do well or how you do present well. And I mean, I've been doing it for 20 something years,
Hmm.
and there's still times when I'm totally learning
Yeah.
what I'm supposed to do. But yeah, I mean, you've got to be able to speak well to anybody.
I love it. Thank you so much. And I guess 20 years you've been speaking. So let's go back to the very beginning. What's been your earliest memory of having to stand up and deliver a presentation, and how did it go?
You know, I'm not sure, it's not the earliest,
Yeah.
but it's the most memorable.
Hmm.
I was at university and I was taking speech 101, and my college roommate still laughs about this
Yeah.
today, that I had to do a demonstration speech. And I was so nervous. I mean, unless I had really a role to play in life, I can be incredibly quiet,
Yeah.
half extrovert, half introvert. So
Hmm.
that I had to get up in front of a classroom of people I knew and do a speech was terrifying. And I was awful. And in fact, the speech professor called me to his desk afterwards and said, I know you were really trying, but I hope you're majoring in something where you don't have to speak to
Hmm.
people.
Wow.
Great.
Yeah, thanks for
But
that.
once you care about what you're speaking about,
Hmm.
it's so much easier.
Yeah,
So,
perfect. So let's go back to that moment a second. I think we'll talk about introversion, extroversion in a bit as well, because I can kind of resonate with that point. So what now you've been doing speaking and you've become a speaker, what piece of advice would you love to give to a young Harriet that's about to stand up in front of her classmates? Like what's that one piece of advice that you think would really help her in that moment?
wow. The young Harriet as a student, or young Harriet wanting to be a speaker,
Yeah,
or maybe
the one who stood up in front of that public speaking class and was really nervous and didn't really know what to do. Like what advice would you give to her?
I would not tell her to think about everyone naked. I don't understand
Yeah.
where that came
No,
from.
no.
I really would tell her to find a topic that you really care about.
Yeah.
So it's easier to be able to deliver the message. Because if you're only trying to do a speech with something that you've just learned about or you're
Hmm.
interested in, it's so much harder. And
Love that.
that's why,
Yeah.
I truly believe you got to speak from your heart.
Yeah.
Rather
Yeah.
than,
I love that. And I guess when we're talking about a topic we're not really an expert in or we've got no passion about or we're not credible in, we tend to just research loads of stuff, write loads of words down and try and remember it. And it's never going to be an authentic, memorable speech because you're just relaying information that you found somewhere on Google.
absolutely. And the one thing that I've noticed in the last few years of coaching programs
Hmm.
and maybe being a member of different Facebook groups and listening, watching conversations. And the one thing that drives me insane is when they say, you don't have to be an expert, just, learn. Or if people
Mm.
say, I just got booked for an organization and it's not really a topic I know well. What should I do? And people are like, oh, go for it, go for it. And it's like, I would never want a surgeon to
No,
learn how to be a surgeon on the fly.
no, no.
I would never want a pilot to fly my plane unless they were certified.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't understand why want to be speakers think that they can just read a book or do a little bit of research and deliver from the, from the a position of I'm an expert in this material.
Yeah.
That really bothers me.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I guess the advice in there is choose your lane, find something you're passionate about, really speak on that topic, and I guess you can change lanes in the future, but for now, speak about something you're really passionate about. Yeah. Definitely.
Well, I totally believe you. I am not one that believes you can only speak about one thing. I think you can speak about many things, but you have to know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you can be called out.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. And I guess one of the best ways to learn speaking is to go and do it and go out there and make a few mistakes.
Absolutely.
A lot of us introverts and shy people and people with fear of speaking, we don't do that because we're too scared of making mistakes in person. So I guess my question is what mistakes have you made along the way, or which mistakes stand out as big learning moments for you as a speaker?
There are several. One is I went to audiences, larger conferences when I wasn't ready, but I wanted to be out there and I wanted to get this business going. And what it ended up doing was hurting my business because people thought, oh, well, she's not that good, or she,
not ready.
Maybe is good for a workshop, but she shouldn't have been in this session. And so I learned that. And then something else I learned was that I quoted a fee and there was silence. And the meeting planner just sat there, and I was about to say, oh, I'll go for, less. And he just sat there and he said, I'm not sure you're the caliber of speaker that I'm looking for because your fee is so much less than I normally pay.
Oh, wow.
And I remembered then some, what my mentors had said, but I didn't know it really applied to me. But it's like, say your fee and be quiet.
Yes.
Because there are so many times when I negotiated when I probably should not have.
Yeah.
And I should have been. If you're going to quote a fee, then you have to believe in your fee that you are worth that.
Absolutely.
And if you don't, and you're just negotiating because you want to get the gig, then you're gonna hurt yourself because there's a network of people that talk.
Yeah. So. And I guess utilize that network to find out what people are paying for those types of gigs, so that you pitch at the right level as well, I guess, is another key point.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's a thing that a couple of years ago that I wanted to do. And I said, well, who was your speaker last year? And they mentioned who it was. And he's a good friend of mine. I just called him and I said, hey, what did you quote?
I love that.
And so he told me, and then I knew where they were looking, or, I didn't want to be less than him and I wasn't going to be so much more than him.
Yeah.
So. Brilliant. That's why you got to know your network of speakers too, and look at them as colleagues.
You absolutely do. So let's go back to that introversion, extroversion point. So I've done my Myers-Briggs personality types assessment, and I know that I'm a off the scale introvert based on, the input I put into there. Does it mean that introverts are better or worse speakers, or could or couldn't speak? Like, what's your kind of view on introversion versus extroversion as a public speaker?
I think if you look at actors, the majority of them say they've never watched their own films, or they cringe when they do. And I've been around some actors or speakers who are fabulous on stage and super outgoing. And then when you're with them later, they're very quiet or very reserved. While speaking as a performance, it's actually also a part of you. And so I know that I'm an extrovert in a lot of ways, but then I'm also an introvert, which means sometimes I think I can deliver a presentation better because I can point out people in the audience who are also like that.
Yes.
Not do high risk interactive activities because an introvert is not going to want to do that. But then also do some of those high risk activities because it's good for people to get
outside their comfort zone.
Yeah, you've got to be able to read your audience, and you've got to be able to, I guess, well, I have to get out of my comfort zone sometimes. At the same time, I have to say, if it's not going to benefit me in terms of I know I'm going to be successful on that stage, then I need to refer it to somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. Yeah, I agree. So I think one of the big things about introversion for me is I can switch it on. I can be more introverted as I speak, but I will probably need to have 30 to 60 minutes afterwards on my own to kind of recharge the batteries before I can go again.
Oh, shoot. Yeah. My adrenaline will be up and going, and then it crashes so hard afterwards. I mean, I'm not sure I've ever been awake on a plane.
No. After a
My
gig, no.
adrenaline is just, it goes down, and that's when I recover. I don't want to
Yeah.
be around a lot of people
Mhm.
after.
Yeah, so I
So
guess it's just knowing where you get your energy from and how you need to recover and kind of manage that around your speaking career as well.
absolutely. Yeah.
So we've given some advice to those people looking to start out as a speaker. We've started to talk about that transition to actually charging a fee as a speaker. And I guess a lot of people get to that transition point where they may have a full-time job, they're doing a little bit of speaking on the side. Like, what advice would you give to somebody who wants to just become a full-time keynote speaker? That's all they do. What have you got any advice there or
Sure.
guidance?
Well, that's exactly how I was. I had a full-time job,
Hmm.
and then I wanted to be a speaker. And I actually, this tells you how long ago it was. I sent some VHS tapes to a speaker who said he wanted to help me.
Yeah,
And his response was, don't quit your day job.
yeah.
And he gave me some pointers.
Mm,
And then after the third time that I sent him a video, he said, you're ready, go do it.
great.
And I still didn't quit my day job, but
Hmm.
I worked on when could I speak and keep that day job, because losing your benefits and losing your
Yeah.
salary is huge. But then also I realized that as long as I had that safety net of a job, then I was never going to be hungry enough to go look for presentations
Yeah.
and build that business. And so when I made that leap, I was prepared for months of not having a salary,
Hmm.
because at that time we were booked 6 months to 2 years out in advance. Now
Yeah.
it could be 2 weeks, but you've got to balance the safety net as
Hmm.
well as the hunger to get your business off the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people listening will resonate with that. Especially with, rising cost of living and mortgages, you want that regular income, but equally, when you get to the age of 80, 90 and look back, would you wish you'd have made that leap and kind of push yourself to become a speaker? That's just something to really think about.
Yeah. And you might have to sacrifice a little bit of
Mhm.
maybe sell that house
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
get something less expensive,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
get rid of that gym membership.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Because things are not going to go immediately
No.
off the charts and you're going to be successful.
Yeah. Perfect. And I guess there is that amateur phase where you're not the best speaker and you're not that good and you may be uncomfortable, but there is that phase. You are going to have to go through that, but it's worth it, I guess, is the message in the long
Yeah.
run.
Oh, of course. And you have to, again, sometimes people say don't speak for free.
Hmm.
Shoot, I wanted to speak anywhere and
Yeah.
everywhere that would allow me to practice my presentation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that's how I built a business, because too, it also gave that person in the audience an opportunity to come up to me and say, hey, do you speak to sales leaders?
Mm,
And then I've gotten a lot of business from some free presentations, but I
yeah.
have to make sure that, now I make sure that it benefits me
Yeah.
and them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And that's a good point. And getting paid to speak isn't the only way to make money as a speaker. So you can obviously sell from stage, you can create referral marketing business as well from speaking. So lots of different ways you can generate revenue from that.
absolutely. And one thing, when you just said sell from the stage, I agree with that. And I've done it, but I've also understood how important it is to get permission from
Yes.
the meeting planner to do
Mm,
that.
yeah.
And sometimes speakers don't do that because they think this is my platform. And it's like,
Hmm.
yeah, but you'll never be back on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
Yeah.
capacity without asking.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Thank you. A couple more questions. I guess one quite topical about a year ago is we all went into a global pandemic. A lot of people said that the speaking business stopped dead March 2020, which I think it did.
We
How
did.
did you personally transition during that period, and what did you learn in that kind of transition to virtual speaking?
The transition was awful. I mean, there was no
Yeah,
transition. It was like boom
yeah,
and nothing.
yeah.
I went 48 hours, I lost my business.
Mm,
Uh, and sure, some transition to virtual, and some have continued to be virtual.
mm,
But then if you look at Forbes and, Entrepreneur and some other sales industry meetings, magazines, they are expecting huge boom of conventions and more trainings, and the need for speakers will be greater. So I
great.
think while I was worn out
Hmm.
right before COVID and thinking,
Yeah,
I'm not sure I want to do this anymore, it helped rejuvenate why I'm doing what I'm doing, and
nice.
that I do love it. And
Hmm.
maybe it's time for me to not necessarily reinvent myself, but reinvent some of my presentations
Mm.
and audition again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And get yourself back on track. But yeah, I think virtual is totally here to stay.
Great, love it. And I think somebody's saying to me it's like 70 to 80% less cost to put on a virtual event than it is a in-person event when you think of the travel, the flights and catering and everything. So there's
I
big
just did a
benefits.
program for Singapore. I mean, imagine how much less it was for them.
Yeah,
And I mean, when I went over to Singapore once before, my airfare alone was $2,500,
exactly. Yeah,
US dollars.
yeah.
And that right there allowed them to buy more presentations from me virtually
Mm.
than only have me there for, one or two because of the cost
Couple of
of
hours.
travel.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Perfect. So it sounds like you've transitioned, you've benefited, you've used that time to not reinvent yourself, but rethink different ways forward. So yeah, lots of benefits there. And it sounds like virtual speaking is here to stay, but also rebound to big seminars, workshops, conferences as well. So a bit
Absolutely.
of a hybrid going forward.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a huge resurgence
Yeah.
in speaking opportunities, and that's why we have to be ready.
We have to be ready. Interesting. Great. So thank you so much again for your time. One final question from me today is if somebody does want to book you as a speaker or find out more about you, where's the best place for them to do that?
Probably my website,
Mm-hmm.
harrietturk.com.
Great.
And, I'm on social media and those kind of avenues as well. But it's always easiest to reach me through my website.
Through the website. Brilliant. And what I'll do, Harriet, is I'll paste a note to your website in the show notes so people can click on that and find out a little bit more about you as well.
Sounds great. Thanks, Tom.
So thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you coming along and you shared such great value with me and our audience. So yeah, thank you again so much for being here.
You're so welcome. Thanks.